all use the internet, right? Clicking around, shopping, watching videos. But what about the parts we don't see? The hidden corners.
Yeah, exactly.
Today we're doing a deep dive into the dark web. It's a place that, well, it sparks a lot of questions and honestly often gets kind of blown out of proportion.
It really does. There's this huge mystique around it.
Mm,
So our goal here, I think, is to try and move past all the sensationalism
right.
and really get a handle on what the dark web actually is, how it works, under the hood, and maybe why it matters in our, well, super connected world.
Okay.
We've been looking through some material to guide us, specifically excerpts from the dark web exploring the unknown.txt.
And we're going to break it all down for you. The aim is to make it clear and hopefully give you some surprising insights without getting totally bogged down in, like, super technical jargon.
Yeah, keep it accessible.
So the internet isn't just one flat thing, is it? People talk about layers, like an onion sometimes.
That's a pretty common analogy, and yeah, it's useful. So the layer we all know and use every day, that's the surface web.
Okay.
Think of it like the public roads, the highways, websites indexed by Google, Bing, whatever search engine you use. Easily found, easily accessed.
Right, so that's where you find, news sites, cat videos, online shops, all that usual stuff.
Exactly.
But there's a whole lot more out there that those search engines just don't see or don't index. That's the deep web, yeah.
Precisely. The deep web is all the content that isn't indexed. So if the surface web is public roads, think of the deep web as like a city full of private buildings.
Private buildings.
Oh, okay. They aren't necessarily hidden in some, nefarious way. They just need a key, basically. Think of private company databases or academic journals you need a subscription for, maybe your online banking portal.
Ah, right. Stuff you need a password for.
Exactly. Or things that just aren't meant for public searching. Medical records, cloud storage, loads of stuff.
Okay, so it's the behind-the-scenes areas, the member zones, the digital vaults. Got it. And then, within that huge deep web, there's this much smaller, deliberately concealed section. It's the dark web, like secret tunnels connecting some of those buildings.
That's the perfect way to put it, yes. The dark web is a specific slice of the deep web that's intentionally hidden, and you need special software to get in.
Okay.
The most well-known is Tor, the onion router. And it's really important to stress, like you said, the dark web is actually a tiny, tiny fraction of the overall deep web.
So it's not this vast, shadowy alternative internet, really. It's smaller.
Much smaller, relatively speaking.
Okay, so these secret tunnels.
Yeah.
How do they actually manage to stay secret? How does this Tor thing work? It's magic.
Well, Tor it's pretty clever, actually. Its main goal is anonymity, protecting your identity online.
Oh.
It does this by first encrypting your internet traffic, like wrapping it in code. Then it bounces your connection through a whole series of volunteer-run servers, nodes, scattered all across the globe. Yeah. And the trick is, each server in that chain only knows the IP address of the server immediately before it and the one immediately after it. It doesn't know the original source or the final destination.
Ah, okay. So it's like your message is playing past the parcel through a bunch of blindfolded players.
That's a really good analogy, actually. Yeah. It makes it incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes, to trace that online activity back to your specific computer or, your real identity.
Okay, that makes sense. So you need special software, the Tor browser you mentioned.
Right. You need the Tor browser to connect to the network. And the websites themselves, they don't use normal addresses like .com or .org.
No.
They use these unique, often kind of random-looking addresses that end in .onion.
.onion.
Yeah. And those onion sites are only reachable if you're using the Tor network. Your regular browser just won't find them.
And I've heard that if you're actually trying to buy or sell something in these hidden places, you're not using your Visa card, presumably.
No, definitely not. That would defeat the whole purpose of anonymity. Cryptocurrencies they're central to how things work there.
Like Bitcoin.
Bitcoin was the big one, especially early on. But increasingly, people use privacy-focused coins like Monero, too.
Why those?
Because they offer even greater transaction anonymity, their decentralized nature, and the way they obscure the sender and receiver provides, a significant layer of privacy that fits the dark web environment.
Okay, so we've got the layers, surface, deep, dark, and the tech Tor, onion sites. Crypto keeping it hidden. So now the big question. What's actually going on down there? We mostly hear about the really bad stuff.
And unfortunately, yeah, the darker side does tend to grab the headlines, and there's definitely a basis for that. Illegal marketplaces are a major feature.
Filling what?
You name it, unfortunately. Illicit drugs, weapons, stolen credit card details, fake passports, counterfeit money, all sorts of things.
Wow.
You can also find like hacking services for hire, people selling malware, or offering to launch cyber attacks. And, much more disturbingly, the dark web is also tragically linked to truly abhorrent activities like human trafficking and the sharing of child exploitation material.
Yeah, that's the stuff that makes your blood run cold.
It absolutely is. And some extremist or terrorist groups might also use it for communication, trying to stay off law enforcement radar.
It sounds pretty bleak. But our source material also suggested it's not entirely a digital hellscape. There are other uses.
That's a really crucial point to make. It's not all bad. For people living in countries with really heavy internet censorship or, oppressive governments,
Yeah.
the dark web can actually be a vital tool. It offers a way for journalists, activists, whistleblowers to communicate securely, to share information without constantly looking over their shoulder, fearing government surveillance, or worse.
So, a tool for freedom of speech in some places.
Absolutely. It can provide a platform for minority groups, political dissidents, people whose voices are just silenced on the regular internet. Even cybersecurity professionals use it. They go there to research, to study the latest threats, malware, hacking techniques, to understand what the bad guys are up to, which ultimately helps make the entire internet safer for the rest of us.
Okay, so it's a real paradox then.
Yeah.
A genuine mixed bag, not just this, digital den of thieves.
Exactly. It enables terrible things, but also potentially quite noble things, too.
Thinking about that more notorious side, though,
Mm.
the source mentioned some really big examples, cases that kind of put the dark web on the public map, right?
Definitely. Silk Road is probably the most famous. It was one of the very first big online black markets, primarily for illegal drugs.
I remember hearing about that.
Its rise, and then its eventual takedown by the FBI back in 2013. That was a huge story, a real landmark event.
And it wasn't the only one.
Oh, no. After Silk Road, others popped up to fill the void, like Alpha Bay and Hansa Market became absolutely massive, huge marketplaces.
Right. But they were also eventually dismantled. There was this big, coordinated international police operation in 2017 that took them both down. It showed law enforcement was actively working in that space.
And wasn't there something about that cheating website, Ashley Madison? Did that involve the dark web?
Yeah, the Ashley Madison hack. That was slightly different. It wasn't a dark web marketplace itself. It was a regular website.
Yeah.
But when hackers breached it, they stole incredibly sensitive user data.
Names, emails, preferences.
Exactly. And vast amounts of that leaked data ended up being shared and circulated on the dark web, which led to, massive public scandals, ruined reputations. It really highlighted the danger of sensitive data falling into the wrong hands and how the dark web can become a repository for that kind of thing.
Okay, so these examples, they really bring home the real-world consequences, don't they? Both the illegal trading and the data leaks.
For sure. Which naturally leads us to think about the dangers for for anyone curious enough to try and poke around down there. All right, let's say someone listening is just thinking, I wonder what's there. What are the actual risks? Is it dangerous just to look?
The risks are pretty substantial, honestly. First off, legal risks. Depending on where you are, just accessing certain types of content, even if you stumble upon it accidentally, could potentially get you into legal trouble.
Okay, that's serious.
Then there are huge cybersecurity threats. The dark web is absolutely crawling with malware, viruses, spyware. Phishing scams designed to steal your login details or financial info are everywhere. It's easy to click on the wrong link.
So your computer could get infected pretty easily.
Very easily. And beyond the technical risks, there's the emotional or psychological risk. You can encounter some incredibly disturbing content, violence, exploitation, hate speech, stuff you really can't unsee.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And just on a practical level, it's full of scams. Many supposed vendors selling goods or services are just there to take your cryptocurrency and disappear without delivering anything. Trust is obviously very low.
Okay, so message received. Definitely not a place for casual tourism. Don't just wander in.
Absolutely not.
It makes you wonder, though, with all these dangers, all the illegal stuff, why does it even exist? Why hasn't it just been shut down? What are the arguments for it?
Well, this really gets into that sums it up perfectly. It's a paradox. The very anonymity that protects activists and journalists is the same anonymity that shields criminals. It highlights how technology itself is often neutral. It's how it's used that matters.
And law enforcement isn't just ignoring it, obviously. You mentioned the takedowns. What are they actively doing to sort of police this hidden space?
They're definitely active.
Hmm.
Major law enforcement agencies think FBI, Europol, Interpol, the UK's National Crime Agency, they all have dedicated cybercrime units.
And what do they do?
They patrol the dark web, gather intelligence, conduct investigations, often lengthy, complex ones, trying to identify and locate the operators of illegal sites and the users involved in illicit
He
activities.
must be incredibly difficult given the anonymity.
It is, but they're using increasingly sophisticated techniques like blockchain analysis. Even though crypto transactions are somewhat anonymous, they leave a trail on the public ledger, the blockchain. Experts can sometimes follow the money, linking transactions back to real-world exchanges or individuals.
Following the digital breadcrumbs.
Kind of, yeah. They also use undercover tactics, infiltrate criminal forums, and sometimes they set up what are called honeypots.
Honeypots.
Yeah, basically fake illegal websites or marketplaces. They set them up to look real, lure in criminals, gather evidence, and then make arrests. Like the Hansa Market takedown involved tactics like that.
Wow. So it's this constant high-tech game of cat and mouse down there.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it's always evolving.
So looking ahead then,
Mm.
what do you see as the future? Will the dark web grow, shrink, change?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think we can probably expect continued pressure from law enforcement. Regulations might get tighter, and their technical capabilities to investigate will keep improving.
So maybe it gets harder to operate there.
Potentially. But the core desire for privacy isn't going away. If anything, as surveillance on the regular surface web increases, the demand for anonymous spaces might actually grow.
Interesting point.
And then you have emerging technologies. Think about AI or further developments in blockchain and cryptography. These could cut both ways. They might offer new tools for law enforcement to de-anonymize people,
Right.
or they might provide even stronger methods for users to protect their anonymity. It's really hard to predict which way the balance will tip. It's also possible we'll see more legitimate uses developing as people seek refuge from tracking and censorship.
So the picture could actually get even more complex.
I think that's likely, yes.
So wrapping this up, it feels like the key takeaway is that the dark web isn't this simple, monolithic, evil place. It's complicated.
Extremely complicated. It's an environment with undeniable serious risks and harms, but also, for some, potential benefits related to privacy and freedom. It's really just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or ill.
Neither purely good nor purely evil.
Exactly. And understanding its nuances, what it is and what it isn't, is just becoming more and more important as our lives are increasingly lived online.
Yeah, definitely feels essential to grasp in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
And really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? As we keep navigating this digital world with this constant push and pull between security, privacy, and freedom,
Mm-hmm.
what are our ethical responsibilities, as individuals, as societies, as governments, when it comes to spaces like the dark web? How do we balance controlling the bad stuff with protecting legitimate needs for privacy?
Big questions.
Huge questions.
Yeah.
And maybe the biggest one is, what does the future even hold for digital anonymity itself in a world that seems to be watching more and more closely? Definitely something to ponder long after this deep dive ends.